Solange's When I Get Home is not only a follow-up to her amazing last album, A Seat at the Table, it's also a gentle, immersive experience for me that I think was not designed for instant gratification. It's an album which is delicately put together, with a lack of strict choruses and a wandering structure and tempo. By sitting on the improvisational side, she and the many creatives who were involved in the conception of this album are trying to create truly expressive art. I know that's a weird statement to make, but it's a rare thing in today's world of entertainment. And most of this record was actually made from one-take songs. This video will look at the concepts and the lessons that one can learn from the conception of this album, as well as what things have impacted me on a personal level. When I Get Home as a title for the album represents contemplation to me. Contemplation and reminiscing over returning home. The place that you find sanctuary, the place that you find comfort, the place that helped build who you are. The phrase "when I get home" is also a sort of statement of reminding yourself of the things that you took for granted as a young person. One great example being time. When we're young, we often sit there and do things without a sense of understanding, and that's fine because we're learning. But we're unaware that it's the most valuable finite resource in the world. Essentially, as kids, we're exploring and finding out new things, but we're also being mindful. And that's important because we actually lose that as we get older. We lose that sense of time as we fall into routine, even though we shouldn't. Going back to the point about immersion and free-form art, as I said previously, the line off the track "Can I Hold a Mic?" where she explains, "I can't be a singular expression of myself. There's too many parts, too many spaces, too many manifestations, too many lines, too many curves, too many troubles, too many journeys, too many mountains, too many rivers." It's a long and phenomenal line that I resonate with because it's a comprehension of the vastness of not only the universe, but what anyone from any background is capable of. That to be a creative with freedom is to expose yourself to infinite possibility, which can also overwhelm. It's basically a line that says two parts. One, that expressive freedom is something that everyone should control, but also something that everyone should be wary of, because you can definitely get lost in it. In an interview that we present, Solange opened up about how the film that accompanies the album is about a spiritual moment she had at a church summer camp in Houston when she was 10 years old. That she struggled with confronting the force that she felt back then. Her interpretation of tying that back into the film mainly speaks to her about reimagining infinite possibilities of looking at things, which goes back to my previous point. Changing the way we as humans try to understand things that at times are so difficult to comprehend that it seems like gibberish. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that overly complex things in life are often simplified in our head, but the way we kind of simplify things in that manner can really be modified if we try. I know that this entire point has been sort of convoluted, but in the interview she then leads on to a point about how her conversations have been grounded in evolution, the theory and concept of evolution. Solange had a severe autonomic nervous system disorder, which had forced her to cancel a New Year's show for 2018. She mentions it because that was the event that forced her to rethink how she imagined the world afterwards. She had to come up with new ways of coping with society today, being aware of our own fragility and abilities as humans. Solange is proud of being from Houston. That will always be home for her, despite the fact that she started touring at 13 years old. Since then, she's been around the world, experiencing culture, but not being around in the place that made her for too long. She says she still has an issue with being in one place at a time, but over time and years later, she's recognized that she's proud of all the creative spirit, the poets, the filmmakers, the artists, the rich history that Houston has. Ultimately, When I Get Home as an album is an ode to the community that made her. It's to uplift them and answer to them. A really important point she made was that she learns through the work that others have been so gracious to share with us, her heroes, and also through the voices of those who are unapologetically themselves every single day, who strive to also learn like her, through being quiet, drowning out the noise oneself creates and taking time to listen and understand. That's one thing I hope I can do more of in 2020, be more aware of the wealth of knowledge in the everyday people around without letting my sense of self get in the way, without letting my sense of ego get in the way of learning. So essentially, move past fear, move past being afraid of uncertainty and change, because that's actually the only thing you shouldn't fear. Uncertainty and change are the key drivers to making you a better person for tomorrow, because it incites growth. Now, I'm always the type of person to be chronically worried or paranoid, but taking that leap, searching the world outside, being quiet and reflective constantly is something I can definitely implement more in 2020 and beyond. As Stivona Ellen Rogers said in a No ID interview with Solange, a lot of who we are as people is wrapped up in some form of heartache, but there's more to our individual and collective stories. We cannot forget the full-bodied laughter, the dreams, the deep friendships, the victories, and how it has shaped who we have dared to become. I like that quote because it's a theme that runs through this album, that the memories that we have form the core of our existence, and being yourself gives you the best chance of forming the memories you'd want to look back on, regardless of what's happening on in the world. Overall then, this album truly makes me look at myself, but also home. It makes me think about what I've done and where I've come from, and what there is yet to learn, especially from those who have passed, but also the thriving community in our times and our generations that show us that the possibilities in the world are what you make of them.